Hello students, welcome again. Welcome to this next video lecture. So we were discussing about the intercultural communication, and the same content we are going to study in this today's video lecture. Okay, so it was not possible to cover all the things regarding the intercultural communication. Even the notes or the information of the contents that is available with me, which has three subparts, and even we are comprising the video lectures having 30 minutes, 20 minutes, or 30 minutes, whatever it is. So in that time period, to cover those contents, we have made small videos to understand such kind of contents which is developed by NPTEL. Okay, so see here, we let us revise some part. We were talking about the intercultural communication for the past several sessions. So today we'll cover this discussion about how cultural intercultural communication has been studied, and we will move on to intercultural communication competence. So let us revise. We talked about intercultural communication, the significance of intercultural communication, the meaning of intercultural communication. We also talk about the about what makes us different from each other, and then we discuss the cultural frameworks. We talked about Hofstede study. We talked about uh, Professor Shaw's study, and we also talked about Trompenas. We talked about the globe study, and I had asked you to think how these things relate to your daily lives. So now we also talked about the socio-ideological differences between different groups of people. We talked about some frameworks. We could not finish the institutional distance, so we will do that today, and then we'll also talk about how these things relate to your lives as people in the corporate sector, or people wanting to go into the corporate sector. So see, we talked about the basis of these cultural frameworks. We talked about the psychic distance, which, according to Johnson and Whalen quoted, cited in Magnuson et al. And associates, was a psychic distance, the sum of factors preventing the flow of information from and to the market. For example, differences in language, education, business practices, industrial development, and culture. And we had talked about how I mean in simple language. What is psychic distance? It's the barriers. It is the in simple ordinary terminology, it is the mental blocks. So we refer to these things has been mental blocks. These are the things that prevent us from interacting with our environment, and this could be the difference in language. We will discuss uh, barriers to communication in future sessions, but these are the blocks. These are the psychological reasons for not wanting to go out of the comfort zone and interact freely with our environments. And these psychological reasons could be or hesitation because of differences in language, or hesitation because of our differences in educational level, in the level of understanding our differences, or a hesitation because of differences in business practices, our hesitation because of different levels of industrial development, our hesitation, I keep repeating the word our hesitation, because of it is all in the mind. It is all in our heads. It is, I mean, as in very simple term, especially for those who are actually sitting in fast for places, and very few or less you'll know that term in commonly used in mental block. So this is my hesitation. I hesitated to step out my comfort zone. That is pretty much what psychic distance is. It's my hesitation. It is the under reason contributing my hesitation to interacting with other entities in my environment. Could be various, and you could go back to the slides on what makes us different, and see how much how each of these things and many more contribute to us hesitating in doing things that we would have otherwise done, that would have brought us on the same platform. on the same level as others. So the alignment of comfort zone doesn't occur because we hesitate, and we hesitate because of these differences. That is pretty much what is psychic distance is. We have talked about Mulder talking about power distance, which is extent in expectance of unequal distribution of power. We discussed how in some cultures the unequal distribution of power is dumb thing. We discussed how it is accepted, how it organizer society. We also discussed how in other culture is a flatter organization is in the preferred method of running any management group. So you know it just depend on where you coming from, what is your goal are. No In line with this, once we discussed institutional distance. I will take you back to the full notion of psychic distance, and I will discuss something that will make a lot more sense. Now that we discussed all these theories, but that came before all of these theory came up, we talked about Kosovo institutional distance, which is the sum of differences on the three pillars. Those are regulative and normative and cognitive environments, and we will discuss little more detailed several studies on institutional distance have got the attention of our scholars in intercultural communication, and they have there more about it, done a lot more work on this and studied institutional distance. Shaw et al. Shaw and associates studied 45 countries and studied notion of institutional distance in 45 countries. Gore on associates in 2016 2006 published sometime something, but 53 countries, and this study said what had been said earlier and reaffirmed the application of the notion of institutional distance in today's corporate environment also. And the brute concept, major concept in these studies are regulative environment. Okay, and then say institutional distance is pretty much a function of the combined differences in all of this environment. One is a regulative environment, so the laws and rules country make up a regulative environment, and there could be differences, there could be hesitation because of these differences in the laws and the rules in the countries. So in the two countries are interacting with each other for business, there would be some hesitation because of these laws and rules are so different from each other. In addition to this, the normative environment, which is the general norms and values uh, held held by a country's people, what also be in difference in three things sort of interact with which other, they influence each other, they have an impact on how other function, so they're interrelated, they very closely enmeshed with each other, and these three things make up in the notion of institutional distance. It can be one or the other, it is a mixture of a regulatory environment. That regulatory environment will impact or will affect the normative environment, and the normative environment will affect the cognitive environment. Relative environment will affect the cognitive environment, and then cognitive environment will affect these two. Normative environment will affect the regulative environment also. So these things are sort of, they the function in closest association with each other, and the impact of these three is very dynamic on each other as well as on the overall environment of a place, of a organization, of a business, and and of a business. And what you people in this country think is wrong, for example in the eastern side, or I said that so normative environment is the general norms and values. What is mentioned here, normative environment is the general norms and values held by countries people, which means what you people in the country thinks is right, what you people in this country think is wrong. For example, in the eastern side, on the eastern side of a planet, of the planet in India also, you will find very few people or lots of people believe to go to the other side. Most of the people believes it is disrespectful to sit with of the feet, the source of your feet facing somebody older than you, or facing books, or facing some places of prayer, and that is common to people in this region. You know, anyone from any religion faith believe uh, will feel the same way, whereas for people in other parts of the world this may not be something they would giving. They would say, what is the big deal, means we respect our religion, we respect some content or objects in our country, but same contents will not be respected in other countries as we are giving that kind of respect in our regions. So what is the big deal if I am stepping over books, and here if I find books in line on the floor, I will not feel comfortable jumping over them. So is lots of gradient society. Any religion is not the Hindu religion only. I will not have the place of the prayer as the feet of my bed. If I have it in bedroom, I will have it on the side or preferably towards head of my bed, but I will not have the places of prayer towards my, you know, where my source of my feet may have a chances facing the place of prayer. So this is just of a failure. If I am sitting along with somebody older than me, I will, it will be sacrilege to sit with the source of my feet facing the person who is older in authority or in age and just of value, you know. So it is not particular to any religion, and I hope I'm right, but I'm sure, you know, all of listening to me would probably uh, becoming from different religion, then you might be able to agree with me. So that is the normative environment, you know, and of course you know these beliefs and values, and this, I mean, this is just one of the simple things. But then stuff like this, you know, what is considered respectful, what is considered disrespectful, what is appropriate, what is not appropriate, will in turn in much larger manner impact some of the laws that operate in a country. So this again, with the notion of the particularistic kind of climate, universalistic versus particularistic kind of climate, where you, these specific laws, specific there are things that are specific to a country, or that are specific to a community is a country. For example, here in India specifically, you know, we all the people of the different religion to practice some expressions of their religion at work. So you know, for example, in the Sikh religion or any other religion, Sikh religion men wear turbans and they wear steel bangles, you know, on, and so that is considered appropriate. It is not, we call it kadar. So it considered in an appropriate for men to carry this expression of their religion beliefs to work. It is considered absolutely, and we feel that we should respect to different religion and the expression. So even if the headgear not permitted the turban is not really considered as any sort of gate here. It is part of the religious expression. The kadar is not considered as a jewelry, pieces of jewelry. It is an expression of somebody religions, and it is the respect for somebody, and we can say these are the examples of artifacts. So somebody expression of somebody of their own religion. So the normative environment is like will respect each other, we will respect all religion. So if somebody wants to express their religion, we will love it. Their rules will be like that, the laws will be formed like that, these things will be permitted. So cognitive environment is the influential sets or ways individual notice on interpret environment stimuli. And if you see these three things, cognitive environment is the very basic things here. Cognitive environment is what is really going on in your mind. This is how we individuals interpret our environment. We notice and interpret the stimuli coming from our environment. We respond, we respond depending on how these stimuli affect our comfort zone, and that in turn leads to changes to the kind of stimuli that come again from our environment. So we receive these signals, we receive the stimuli, uh, we interpret them. We first notice them, then we understand them, then we internalize them, and then when we make sense of them, then depending on how comfortable or uncomfortable. Stimuli means the object which is present in front of us. So we are with this stimuli, we send out the response to the stimuli to our environment, and those in turn become the stimuli for our environment. And depending on how we send is stimuli, depending on what is stimuli we send out into the environment respond to as on certain way. And so our stimuli are affecting the environment we are in. They could be affecting the normative environment that we are could in turn impact the norms and values in a place. Now this Sikh religion is a very good example of this. Sikhism is not very old, it is a little over 400 years old. So people come accept their religion. It didn't exist before that. People did come to accept the religion, people did change, people made the environment, open up the environment, sort of created a separate comfort zone to welcome people belonging to this religion after the religion rooted in society. And that is how stimuli was sent back to the environment, and people started believing inheritance slowly. The acceptance scheme in, and I'm taking the example, Sikh example, because some little bit about this. So all of these religion sort of went through same transaction. And using the example of religion because it is something that influence all of us very very strongly, and I know the lots here. So how their religious beliefs or non-religious beliefs have a very strong impact on the way we saying and the way we shape our own environments, the kind of stimuli we send into environment. So when it is not really, if you do not believe in religion, that is perfectly all right, but depending on how many people do not believe in religion, your environment will different from the environment of the people who believe in religion. Either way, the impact is very very strong, whether you believe it or not. And these are the things that shape the normative environment of a place, and that in turn shapes the regulative environment of the country. And these things combined together, they get together, they form this notion of institutional distance. Now again, this is specifically pertaining to the organizational aspect of things. We are not taking about personal emotion here, we are not taking about your and my beliefs here, we are taking about how institutions behave. And these three things are tied. Then it doesn't mean that when I was once I sent my cognitive signal into the environment, my own signals stop going out once the normative environment uh, has changed. Everything is this dynamic, everything is influencing each other, everything is constantly developing, evolving. In turn is what comes in and what goes out. So these three things are constantly influencing each other, and they in turn make us different culturally. And now let us move on to high and low context culture, that about these culture differences. About these studies, I will take you to the precursors of most of these studies. Edward T. Hall thought, uh, Edward T. Hall inputs to the academic community regarding the cultural differences in people's uh, started long time ago. This study was started long time ago, and in fact, he talked about the man-environment transaction, which is the impact man human being, not man in has a gender, but human beings and environment have on each other. And he also discussed how we are constantly feeding or helping each other evolve, feeding into each other's development, feeding into each other's evolution, and how we are evolving as a result of this interactions. So he talked about concept of high and low context cultures, and I will give you several seconds to read what is written here. So you may read some part which is mentioned in this slide. So Dr. Hall, so let us repeat this again, what is written on this slide. According to Dr. Hall, the high context communication, this high context communication or message is one in which most of the information is either in the physical context or internalized in the person, while very little is encoded. Very little is coded. Okay, it is very little encoded, explicit, transmitted part of the message, and another part a low context culture, low context communication or message is one in which the mass of information is vested in the explicit code. Now this sounds like a very difficult stuff. It's not. So let us discuss what is this, what this is. And according to Professor Hall, people have very clear ideas of how they are interacting with their environment. They have very clear ideas of what the environment means to them, and that is rooted in their belief system, that is rooted in how they interact with the environment, how they view their relationship with their environment is big factor in how they interact with the environment. And according to Professor Hall, he says that high context communication or message is one in which most of the information either in the physical context, which means that the information of the message lies in the physical environment, lies in the place in the environment that the person functions from, and or internalized in the person, which is the intrapersonal environment. We talked about interpersonal and intrapersonal things, but most of the information of the message is in the environment. It is not expressed explicitly. To you have to read between the lines. You have to pick up the nuance of the communication. Very little is the coded explicit. What you mean by coded? So coded mean expressed in the language, expressed in these small codes that will call words. So it is not explicit, it is not expressed, it is there. You pick up what you want to pick up. It is not transmitted as part of the message. It is implicit in the environment in which the message is being sent. You also said that a low context communication message is one in which the mass of information is vested in the explicit code. So if I let us see here, it is the image is given here. So see, same image is a little bit modified. See, in the first image here message is coded, okay, and that message is received by different receivers, that is receiver A and receiver B. Okay, so different meaning, these two receivers will get different meanings if it is coded in same channel. Okay, and here in second image you may observe the message is coded properly. Okay, see here these dotted lines shows that this is the environment. Okay, here again it is the environment. Here message is coded properly, it is blocked here. Okay, so that means you can say here message is coded properly, and same message they may get as it is or differently. Here that message is not coded properly, but here it is coded properly. So you may study in detail afterwards. So here we say, when I ask you to get up, and I will give you another example. If I say here uh, ask you to get up and leave the class, if you sitting here and I say please leave my class, now if you are in a high context culture, You could interpret as me asking you to leave because I don't like your face, me asking you to leave because you have done something wrong. I'm asking you to leave because I want solitude, I need to do something else. I just say, please leave my class. I look at you and I say, please leave my class. Depending on the expression of my face, you will decide how you want feel about leaving the class. Now, a personal low context culture would probably not hesitate asking why here he or she is being asked to leave the class, and I would be okay. I would say, please leave the class, please leave my class, because I would, and the because to what I would say to this person, otherwise the person will not understand and may not want to leave the class. In a high context culture, you will first try and interpret your own environment. In a high context culture, in a high here in a high context culture, you will first try and interpret your own environment. You will first try interpret what is gone wrong in the environment. Again, these cultures are not, nobody's on either end of the culture. But in a low context culture, I would not just be able to say, please leave my class. I would need to justify why I'm asking you to leave the class in words. And depending on what I say, you will either feel good about it or you will not feel good about it. You know, may feel guilty, you may feel angry, whatever the case may be. My emotion will determine how I have word message what I said to you. That will be high context culture. So put it simply, in a high context culture, the emphasis on restoring balance is on drawing upon the environment for the transmission of the message in the words. So you assume that the factors in the environment contribute to the transmission of the message along with the actual message. You assume that you do not need to say a lot. How the message is interpreted build upon how other gives and other views, other view environment, how other view their environment. In a low context culture, the focus is on transmitting the message in very clear term. Okay, I said that please leave the class. Message is clear. Okay, and in high context lecture, I said that you leave the class. Leave the class or you leave the class. Didn't the please word is the word please is not used there in high context lecture, but in second low context lecture culture, please word is used, means that time message is transmitted, and before transmitting the message it was clearly coded, and you do not depend on the environment for interpretation. You do not say the person will know the environment well enough to interpret it in the manner that is being sent. So the onus of correct interpretation lies on me as the transmitter of the message. So I will make the message as clear, as watertight as I want it to be. Okay. So we will stop here little bit and we will continue. We will take up this in the next video lecture. Till then, thank you and have a good day.